Well, freshmen, this is lesson 9-7 that's asking you to factor special cases. Now, there are two special cases that we talked about before. One was the perfect square trinomial, and the other is difference of two squares. Now, there's some shortcuts that we can easily find these, but to be honest, you do not have to remember the shortcuts. All you'd have to remember is to do our x, if there's nothing on the a, on the x squared, or the guess and check method. So, to be honest, these type of problems you could do either way. Now, in the first one, the perfect square trinomial, if it is a perfect square trinomial, the n terms are perfect squares. And x squared and 16 are both perfect squares. The square root of each of these, this is x, this would be 4. If I multiply these two together and then type 2, and then times 2 and get this middle term, that means they're a perfect square trinomial. If that's the case, then my answer would be a quantity like this. If you notice the square root, and the sign of the middle comes here. So if I gave you this one, of course I didn't write it down. So I need to check and see if it is a perfect square trinomial. Take the square root of the n, that's 5g. Square root of this one, that's 3. If I multiply those together, I get 15g. And if I took it times 2, I get a negative 30g. So it is a perfect square trinomial. So my answer would be 5g minus 3, the quantity squared. Now, to be honest, both of these could be done either with the x method or the guess and check. You could write your answer 5g minus 3 times 5g minus 3. Again, you do not have to follow the special case way. You can do it like we've done before. Now, the second type we're going to have is a difference of two squares. When we deal with the difference of two squared, there is no middle term. So we have to have two quantities in which the I and the O of FOIL that we use in FOIL would disappear. So basically, you take the square root of each term, and the signs have to be opposite. So I took the square root of 36x squared, 6x times 6x makes 36x squared. 25 is 5 times 5, and I have a typo. Now if I check my I and my O of FOIL, the I would make it a positive 30x, the O would make it a negative 30x, which would drop out. Now, it doesn't make any difference how big the numbers are or how wild it is, as long as this is a perfect square and this is a perfect square, and it's a subtraction, and only works for a subtraction, you can factor it. So in this case, the square root of 121 is 11. Square root of each of those are xy. So there's my first term. Again, my signs have to be opposite because I want the middle two to drop out. And then the square root of 169z squared would be 13z and 13z. So here is the factored form. All right, again, you don't have to remember a special process. You can do it by the x or the guess and check method. They will also ask you to deal with factoring completely, which means your first step is to look for a GCF. In this case, my GCF would be 2. So I'd write 2 parentheses t squared minus 18t plus 81. Well, if you look at this, this is a perfect square trinomial because this is a perfect square, this is a perfect square. The square root of each would make 9t times 2 is 18t, so it does work. So I could write my answer, or I can deal with my two parenthesis groups. I can deal with my x we have the product is 81, sum is negative 18, this would be a negative 9 and negative 9. Just don't forget to write your GCF out in front, and you'll get the same answer. These two are the same answers. All right, you've had several videos. Now you should be ready to do the homework. Good luck.